All right, let's move those. Paul, does the broth look like it's ready? Don't answer that. I'll just get mad. Oh, hey, sorry. It's just been a madhouse in here. You know, the holiday rush is coming right up.
Yeah, this is a really big kitchen. There's a lot of people working in here.
Well, it takes a lot to make a great meal. You know what they say, it takes a village. I think that was referencing children originally, but
yeah.
I'm talking about food.
Okay. I'm glad we cleared that up. So what kind of food do you guys cook here?
Well, only the finest. But I feel like that point is kind of moot. I'm sure you're wondering, why are you tied to this chair?
That was going to be my next question, yeah.
Well, the fact is, you have been a little judgy. The last few times I've made breakfast, you've kind of taken it for granted, and you seem to not really care that I work really hard for no runny yellows.
Oh, God. That was one time you undercooked the eggs. That was it. And it's when you were experimenting with doing the French scrambled eggs, and I feel like I was trying to be constructive.
Okay. No, that makes no. Relax. That makes sense. Well then, just relax. I did choose a really nice chair for you, and I'm just going to sharpen this knife while not breaking eye contact.
This is feeling a little charged, maybe?
Could we get a little bit more scallop in here? Jesus, what are we? Why are we so cheap?
And
this podcast is about why horror scares us. What deep, dark, secret, scary cinema shines a light on. The discussions are frank and involve conversations about abuse, trauma, and mental health. There are also spoilers, so keep that in mind too. Now, sharpen your machetes and straight razors, because this is Cutting Deep into Horror.
Hello, my spookies, and welcome back to Cutting Deep into Horror. I am, of course, your host, Enrique Couto, here with my Cutting Deep into Horror co-host and foodie, Rachel Rodolfi. Rachel, how am I?
Well done, I think.
I mean, it's funny, I said that as a joke, but then I thought about it. Do you remember at the end of October, my description of myself was crispy? I just kept saying, like, I'm all right. I'm just crispy now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty fair assessment of it. For those who don't know, I don't know how you wouldn't, but in October, I did 31 shows in 31 days, which was actually 34 shows in 34, actually 35 shows in 34 days. Long story, but
math is fun.
Well, I'm almost certain that's correct though. But that was what, that was what we did. And it was just it was a lot. It was harrowing because about a third of the programming was novella length. It might have been more. No, it couldn't have been more than a third, but it was still, that's a lot.
That's a lot of words.
But now we're here. Thanksgiving is coming right up, and we wanted to cover a film that I introduced you to, a film I discovered when it first came out and was kind of blown away by, which is Bitter Feast from 2010. And yeah, I thought that was, very, very fitting.
It's appropriate.
You suggested, I just thought it was fitting.
Yeah.
And but before we start that, I do want to mention we are sponsored by Cozy Earth. And I want to say a huge thank you to the spookies who have been going to cozyearth.com and getting themselves something enjoyable to wear or to sleep on or to wrap yourself up in for the upcoming winter months. Cozy Earth offers all kinds of bedding and towels, and my favorite, which is, of course, bathrobes. I was a person who never really believed in sleepwear or robes until about maybe 6 years ago. And when I got a really nice robe, and all of a sudden I was like, I'm a robe guy now.
Yeah.
Nothing beats a great robe, and Cozy Earth has all kinds of very cozy robes and pajama bottoms, pajama tops. And the best part, if you go to CozyEarth.com and use promo code SPOOKY at checkout, you get 41% off. And every purchase supports the program. That's why I want to say thank you to everybody who's already went there and used our code, because I'm aware of every time you guys do, it supports the show directly while getting you something very relaxing and cozy. So, and the only thing that's been awful about this Cozy Earth sponsorship is that my brain keeps transposing comfy and cozy.
Oh no.
So I'll record a promo and I'll say Comfy Earth and be like, no, it's Cozy Earth. It's go to Cozy Earth to get comfy, not go to Comfy Earth to get cozy. And it drives me insane. But yeah.
Darn you, synonyms.
But we really do appreciate you guys checking that out. And they have all kinds of great stuff, all made with natural bamboo. So it's not only comfortable, but it also will last a very long time.
Yeah.
So that's CozyEarth.com. Use the promo code SPOOKY for 41% off your first order. So thank you guys. I just needed to mention that really, really quick. So back to the topic at hand, Rachel. I just cooked us dinner, ironically enough. Although it was a team effort. I took a red sauce you made and then zhuzhed it up.
Yeah.
Amped it up a little bit.
Yeah, I would call that a solid collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And turned out pretty well. A little pasta, a little spicy Italian sausage, a little red sauce, a little bit of this, that.
Yeah.
But now I think that's why it's perfectly, it's fitting that then we sit down and record the show after we have a nice little dinner. But I know that I showed you Bitter Feast when we were on a cabin trip together.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those, I was going through all my movies and they had to be DVDs.
Yeah.
Because the place had a DVD player.
Yep.
And this was one I had on DVD because it came out in 2010. So I bought it before Blu-ray was much more accessible. But you're the one who was like, I want to talk about that on Cutting Deep into Horror. So I would love to know, like, what made you choose 2010's Bitter Feast, which, by the way, is available to watch on Tubi, Pluto TV, Zumo, Amazon Prime. It's pretty much anywhere you can watch movies for free. Bitter Feast is available. So if you haven't seen it, we're going to spoil the hell out of it. So keep an eye on that. But what made this stick out to you that you wanted to cover it?
Honestly, I was so blown away by not only the characters, but also the depth of the story, because there's not really, in the traditional sense, a hero in Bitter Feast. You are, to an extent, rooting for one person, but when you get down to brass tacks, neither one of them are very likable people.
I think that's easy for you to say as a person who hasn't had to deal with criticism, professional criticism, as part of your day-to-day life. To me, there's a very clear good guy, and it's the bad guy. No, but no, that's one of my favorite things about the movie is that it's basically tormenting a critic.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a fan of critics.
No.
I just can't help it. Even though some of my best friends are critics, never been a fan. But what about it made you think it should be on Cutting Deep? Like, what made it so scary to you?
Honestly, I feel like I guess it would be like the third meal, the rabbit meal. When the character JT like totally flips and goes completely insane with the torture and just kind of like accepts the fact that this is his life now, is being tortured by this guy that he pissed off. That was really scary to me because it was him losing all hope. And I feel like a lot of times in horror, they can be almost upbeat because the main character still is holding on to that shred of hope. But he really, he does lose hope totally. And then I don't even feel like he actually gets hope back even after some things happen and he's like it's kind of looking like he could pull one over on Peter. I don't think he does ever get the hope back, which is very interesting to me.
So it's the idea that he kind of accepts his circumstance.
Exactly.
Oh, I mean, I could see that. That is pretty terrifying. There's a movie called King of the Ants that represents that in a shockingly powerful way. The idea of just acceptance of even the most horrible situation. But we'll talk more about Bitter Feast and get into who made it and when and why right after this. All right, so we're talking about Bitter Feast from 2010. I know I keep saying that, but I want to make sure people find the right film. Directed by Joe Maggio, who I shockingly enough have not seen any of his other work. He directed a film in 2001 called Virgil Bliss, which I never saw. He directed a film in 2003 called Milk and Honey, which I never saw. He did a film called Paper Covers Rock in 2008, which I never saw. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Then Bitter Feast. Then in 2011, he did a film called The Last Rites of Joe May, which unfortunately I never saw. And I'm like, I feels weird that I haven't seen so many of these. Did a film called Supermoto in 2016, which I never saw. And then in 2023, he did a movie called Bliss, which was really hard for me to find anything about because apparently there was a movie in 2021 called Bliss and a movie in 2024 called Bliss.
So that's not confusing whatsoever.
Well, it's kind of like one of my favorite found footage horror movies of all time is called Look, and you can't find it. It's the worst title ever because it's Look.
Yeah.
It's almost as bad as Director's Cut, which is, really hard to find as well. So yeah. But yeah, so written and directed by Joe Maggio. It is produced by Glass Eye Pix, which is the production company owned at least in part by Larry Fessenden, the actor who also plays a role in the film. Larry Fessenden has been in so many movies. He was he still is a character actor who started getting into producing a lot of different stuff in the early 2000s and onward. A lot of interesting films. He's also directed a lot of interesting films like Wendigo. He did in 2001. He did his own version of Frankenstein called Depraved in 2019, which was really pretty damn good. I enjoyed it. Produced some of Ty West's early movies.
Ooh.
The guy, you know who Ty West is?
I recognize the name.
Oh, see, she's just playing. He did X and Pearl and
Okay,
Maxine.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Then I do. I just didn't know that I know.
But yeah, so Larry Fessden's really interesting career, really interesting guy. And of course it stars James LaGrosse as Peter Gray, and that is our chef. And then Joshua Leonard as JT Franks, our critic. I'll just say it that way, critic. And for those who don't know, so James LaGrosse has been in a ton of films and TV shows. Most famously, if you're a horror movie fan, you would know him for his role in Phantasm 2, where he played grown-up Mike, which a lot of people pretty mad about because they recast Mike, but only in Phantasm 2 because the original Michael Baldwin rejoined the cast after that. But yeah, so he played Mike in Phantasm 2. He was in Point Break. He played Roach in Point Break. He did a lot of really interesting movies. He did Gun Crazy, which I've always been a fan of. He's in Living in Oblivion, which I love that movie. Those are just like some films in the 90s. He did so many films. He's still doing tons of movies. He was in Straight Into Darkness, which is my buddy Jeff Burr.
Yeah.
That was his film. He's been in, so many movies. I'm looking at this list. And I'm trying to pick like just a few to mention.
Yeah.
And he's especially been in TV shows like crazy over the last few years. He was in the Constantine TV series. He was on Billions. He was in Fear of the Walking Dead, Blue Bloods, Castle Rock, just a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, and he was in one episode of Severance.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So really talented actor, major Hollywood guy. And then we've got Joshua Leonard, and Josh Leonard has the special feather in his cap of being one of the 3 stars in the Blair Witch Project, which we covered last time here on Cutting Deep. And he
was kind of like
Josh.
our segue.
Yeah. So, but that was his first feature film. And since then he's been in a lot of movies. He definitely is, of the 3, the most, has the biggest career of that group. But he's been in a bunch of indie movies mostly. He was in Hatchet. He was in the 2008 Prom Night movie, which I liked. Okay. He was in, 20, what was it? No, not that one. Shark Night, which I love. Me and David Denoyer like Shark Night. but also one of his more famous roles was he was in Unsane, the Steven Soderbergh movie, which I really liked about being in a mental hospital and being crazy. I really loved that one. And it was the gimmick was it was a major like festival hit, but it was shot on the iPhone 7 Plus. The whole movie was.
Oh, cool.
Soderbergh's all about doing stuff like that, just shooting on whatever and being like, screw you. He's also big on being his own director of photography. And when people say you can't do that, he's like, shut up. So anyway.
I wonder if those things are related.
I mean, it might be. He uses a fake name. It's just that people will be like, so, what was the photography like? He'd be like, oh, I used a fake name. It was me. Like, he doesn't hide it at all. So anyway, with that all being said, the long of the short of the film is a professional chef starts to become down on his luck. He's losing his TV show. His restaurants are becoming passé. And on top of it all, there's this hipster. And I think Josh Leonard really played into being like, not even like a caricature of a hipster, but like really played into like being like a hipster in the late 2000s, early 2010s. I think he really like nailed that kind of look and way about him.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that his website's called Gastropunks just made me want to punch the screen. But he decides to take it out on one of his cruelest critics. And that's the other thing is like his criticisms are in no way constructive. They are just cruel.
Just mean. Yeah,
they're mean for the sake of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what that's like. I remember when I had my first film play on like regular television. It wasn't even in the United States. That was in the United Kingdom. I mean, I was getting comments to like kill myself. People were just like, your movie sucks so bad, kill yourself. It's like, it was a children's movie that you didn't like and you're an adult. Like, maybe just move on.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy, but like,
you can
yikes.
Turn the channel.
Yeah, no, for real. And there have been a few critics that are that hurtful and harsh. And I noticed when he repeats some of the reviews in there are ones that say like, he should be executed for this level of, whatever, or he should be banished from ever cooking again. And it's like, that is pretty, tough words from a guy who writes on a blog to a guy who like trained and became a Michelin star chef to say like, you should never touch an egg again. It's like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Like you don't know.
You can say the egg wasn't good, but maybe, it was an off day.
Yeah.
Or maybe you took too much cold medicine before you came. Like, I don't know. I couldn't imagine reviewing food in a serious way.
Oh no.
I mean, I love being able to say like, oh, it's really good, but I couldn't imagine sitting there. I mean, it's the same thing with my cigars. Like, I've been asked before because of how intensive my collection is, like, do you review them? And I'm like, no. I mean, like, I like them. I like smoking cigars. If I get something from it, I'll share it. But I can't imagine sitting in a room with a camera, smoking a cigar, and then like giving my thoughts and then cutting it down and sharing it. Like, that just sounds awful.
Yeah.
That just sounds so, for me, I mean, just because of the way I am, like, cigars are for me. And that's how food is too. I mean, I would say if it's good, if it's, priced well, I can do all that. That's my review. It's just like, was it worth my time? Would it be worth your time? That kind of thing. But yeah, he's clearly a hateful person.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we're going to jump into the beginning and kind of see where this meal is taking us through the courses. I don't know. I thought I was going to come up with a pun. Leave me alone. Right after this.
Well, you were talking about your personal experience with critics. And while I do not have the personal experience with critics, as you were talking, it reminded me of a quote from Robert Heinlein, and you know what a nerd I am and how much I love his writing.
That's true, yeah.
But no, his quote is, a critic is a man who creates nothing and thereby feels qualified to judge the work of creative men. There is logic in this. He is unbiased. He hates all creative people equally. And that's kind of JT, the critic. That's kind of the whole point behind him, is his creativity is in the insults. It's not in actually enjoying the food. It's coming up with the insults that are entertaining to everyone. Whereas Peter, he's the creative one with actual food. He's actually being creative. He's not destroying. And that is, that ties into kind of the beginning of the movie, which you had mentioned. And we start off with two boys in the woods, and we realize pretty early on that one of the boys will eventually grow up to be the cook, and he's sitting there playing with
a chef.
He's sitting there playing with a slightly older kid, and we learn that is his brother. And the older kid is talking about, in basically, he's got written in his journal, and he's talking about there's the creators and the destroyers in the world, and anyone who would seek to unite the two seeks to destroy the world, basically. But yeah, ties that all in together to that quote. But as those two kids are playing, the little whinier kid who grows up to be the chef, he's like, I don't like this game, and just kind of whining about it.
Well, it's not, he's not being a whiner. He's being whacked in the head with a sword and like shoved around. He's being like physically harmed. These games are like, let's play a game where I chase you and hit you.
Well, it didn't start that way.
It was pretty immediate. This is the dichotomy when you have one person who is an older sibling and one person who was a younger sibling.
There's a different points of view.
I would say so.
So that's kind of the introduction, though, to Peter, is just learning a little bit about his childhood. And we do come back to that scene later, because it doesn't really, that's not all of it.
Yeah.
But then we get to the present day, and Peter is a grown adult. He is a chef, and he's got a cooking show called
Bitter Feast. Yeah.
Called The Feast or Bitter Feast.
Oh, no, not Bitter Feast. No, it's just Feast.
Yeah.
It's just Feast. Yeah. Which I thought was like nice, but a little odd of a title, just Feast.
Yeah.
Feast with Peter Gray.
So we get an immediate sense for Peter's personality as an adult, because he's very excitedly talking about the meal that they're going to be making, and talking about where he's sourced different ingredients from the meal. And his co-host is this lady, and she's kind of just playing up everything for laughs, which is generally what a co-host on a cooking show is going to be, there for a bit of levity.
Well, they're very different people. She is an attractive, much younger blonde woman, fully made up, dressed very cute, and he is a very serious, pretentious, bearded, bespectacled guy. In his ways, he's almost he'd be a hipster if he was able to be self-aware. But I don't think he is. I think he's too obsessive, about what he's doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, she's kind of being his foil. But in my opinion, she's being like a little too foily. Like she's kind of belittling what he's doing, which I could see how frustrating that would be, especially when like the whole point of the show originally was to showcase his cooking ability and to showcase his recipes and his theories about food and his, like you were saying, his interest in locally sourced things and all the science of food and all of the communal aspects of food, et cetera, et cetera. And she's just kind of like making jokes out of it. I think he could take it a little less seriously, but her jabs do feel awfully a little on the sharper side.
Yeah, they are sharper. And you get the sense that he resents it because the jokes are so lowbrow too.
Well, and because she's clearly forced on him. He would never want to hang out with that woman.
No.
Ever.
And she doesn't seem like she'd want to have much to do with him either. And not even just because he's being mean to her, which he is being very combative, is even on the air, but especially off, as soon as the cameras aren't rolling, he's, belittling her and demeaning her and raising his voice at her. So yeah, there is not good blood there. So as soon as the show is wrapped, he's having a talk with somebody who I'm assuming is the producer. Yeah. Kind of like a coming to Jesus almost, saying like, hey, you've got to get along with your co-host or else the show could get canceled, because basically she's the only thing that brings in the ratings. And Peter's response is, I don't care about the ratings. To which the producer responds like, okay, well, that's fine. You don't have to care about the ratings, but your show's not getting picked back up next season because it doesn't get any good ratings. And I love how we get to learn so much about Peter as a person through this interaction, because he's trying to stay composed because it's very obvious that the show was just like a means to an end. Like it's a way to get himself out there, but it's not the thing that he's really passionate about. What he's passionate about is the restaurant. And when he gets to the restaurant, he gets pulled aside by the restaurant manager, kind of doing the same thing, giving him like a come to Jesus talk, like, hey, nobody wants to come to the restaurant anymore because the only thing that's keeping your name in the people's eye is your TV show. And we heard that's going to get canceled. And you just got a really bad review from this food blogger. So now nobody even wants your cooking. And this is when we get introduced to JT, who he's written a very nasty, scathing review of Peter's cooking in the restaurant. And the restaurant manager kind of explains, like, we've got to let you go because of all this, and unless you're willing to change the menu to kind of fit the modern times and modern tastes and what people want. And Peter doesn't want to sacrifice his artistic integrity because he already made it known that he didn't want to sacrifice his artistic integrity for the show, which he didn't care about. He's definitely not going to give it up here at the restaurant. So he gets fired. And as he's walking out, there's a vase at like the entryway of the restaurant, and he picks up flowers from the vase and throws it on the ground like, and storms out like a petulant child. And the hostess at the restaurant even looks at the restaurant manager and just mouths like, what the hell? Because like this is his behavior. He is just so self-absorbed that he thinks that storming out after being fired is like the way to go.
What are they going to do? Fire him?
Yeah, I guess he's already been fired.
Well, when we get back, we'll learn a little bit more about Mr. JT Franks and how they connect right after this. Now we're following Mr. Peter Gray home to his little cottage in upstate New York. The film takes place in New York City, which of course is where the big chefs generally, at the very least, that's where they start. Usually the big chefs, unless they were, say, from Los Angeles or from Las Vegas or from Miami, Florida or thereabouts, or Austin, Texas or thereabouts, usually otherwise their first restaurants are going to be in New York City.
Right.
And if they're very successful, then their goal will be to open one in Los Angeles and in Chicago and then in London. That's the goal, is to like keep expanding these restaurants. But of course, he didn't even have his own restaurant. He was just the head chef at one, which is a little odd, but maybe that wasn't that odd in 2010, actually.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how common it was for these superstar chefs to own their restaurants at that point. But but now that we see him at his home, he's of course cooking. And I love this sequence because I feel like we really get to know a lot about him by watching him dice up vegetables and prepare butter and all this stuff, because he has this mentality of exactness and experience, but he's also very happy the whole time he's doing it. Not like blaring smiles, but just a contentment with what he's focused on. And my favorite moment, though, is when it's all done and he takes a bite of the food as he, like, I think he puts on the TV or something, and the look on his face, because what he made is excellent. He just takes a bite. And he's like, oh, I love that, because I am one of those people that believes that if you are a creative person, and granted, creating food is very different from creating books or creating movies or creating music. It is different. It's consumed, but it's not the same type of consumption. But I think there's no shame in enjoying what you make. I've always been flabbergasted when people say, like, oh, I can't stand seeing myself on the screen. I'm like, well, then why'd you put all the effort into doing it? Like, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, I think that's just something people say because they think that that's what you're supposed to say. Like, because that's endearing, versus saying, like, hell yeah, I was awesome. I will be like, hell yeah, I was awesome. I just am like that.
No, you are.
I'm not always that like that way.
No, but you're never self-deprecating.
Oh no, but I'll be like, yeah, I think it turned out great, or I thought it turned out pretty damn good. I'm never like, can you believe it? It's like, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you really feel that way, it makes me wonder what your motive is to keep doing it. Like, is it just to keep self-deprecating? Or I saw an actress one time at a movie screening, and it was the first time she'd seen herself on the big screen. And I was like, how did it feel to like see yourself on a movie theater screen? And she was like, well, I'm always my own worst critic. All I could think about was everything I did wrong. And I was like, well, can I give you some advice? And she's like, what? And I'm like, I was that way for like a good 12 years of my life. Way better on the other side. If you learn to enjoy it, it's way better.
Yeah.
I often think about this, and I'll leave this point. There may be a lot of creativity pontificating in this episode, because to me, that's what the movie is about.
Yeah.
It's about criticism and passion and creation and perversion. I do think that a perversion in the broad sense, not in the sexual sense, but like, to me, the best example I can think of is, of all people, Gilbert Gottfried. Do you know who Gilbert Gottfried
I do.
is? Okay, and the audience, I hope you do too. The guy who sounds kind of like this.
Iago from Aladdin.
Sure. No, and the Aflac duck, and all this stuff.
Aflac.
And the host, one of the hosts of USA Up All Night, and he was just a phenomenal stand-up comedian, one of the funniest human beings on earth, in my opinion. And we lost him a few years back, and I still like hate that there's a world without Gilbert Gottfried in it. But my favorite thing is, I heard from multiple sources when they would tell stories about like going to Gilbert's house to see him, that they would come in and Gilbert would be sitting on his couch watching his own stand-up acts on TV and laughing. And all I could think was like, that is goals. For real. That is goals, because talk about a free joy that you do something for a living and you're good at it and you love it.
Right.
You love what you're doing. You should be able to do that. Now, I'm not saying that means, that I, by any stretch, sit and watch my movies every week, or even I probably watch my own films I've directed. I probably watch like 3 or 4 of them a year. Yeah, it's probably around that if I'm not actively making it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that I sit around watching my stuff all the time, but I like my movies. I do.
Yeah.
You know, when I sit down and watch Awkward Thanksgiving, which by the way is available to watch on Tubi TV for free, and you should watch it around Thanksgiving.
It's in the name.
I think it's hilarious and I enjoy it. So my point is I really just enjoyed the way he just appreciated his own food with that bite. You know?
Absolutely. No, I absolutely agree. And you learn so much about him.
Very quickly.
Just in that sequence.
Well, chefs have to be several things at once, usually, much like artists. They have to be disciplined and meticulous, but they also have to be emotional and spontaneous at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tall order. That's not really two mentalities that go hand in hand very often.
Yeah.
So, but we're about to find out something dark in his history, which is also another typical artist thing, if we're honest, is that he has a dark past that he's, you know, working out as he creates beautiful things for people to eat. And we'll dive into that right after this.
So after enjoying his delicious homemade meal, we get a flashback to that initial scene where he was a child and he was being beat up by his older brother. And his older brother starts chasing him through the woods, and Peter starts running off. He's clearly been abused by his older sibling like this before. And he takes off, starts running, and trips and hurts his ankle. And his brother just runs up and jumps on top of him, starts beating him up, and then goes to strangle him.
Yeah.
And Peter, little kid, he's trying to push his brother off and he can't get him off of him. So he grabs a stick and just stabs him.
In the neck.
Yeah, right in the neck. And, blood everywhere. And obviously very traumatizing to little Peter. And he just gets up and just kind of, takes a deep breath and walks off into the woods. And then we go back to the present day. And that really sets the scene, lets you know kind of the demons that Peter is dealing with, and why he's so intense now.
Yeah. I mean, I would say so. But that's, kind of like I was mentioning before the break, that's kind of the art thing is that there's some element of themselves, that torment, that makes you great or whatever. This would be a decent combination with Whiplash.
Oh, yeah.
Although Whiplash isn't a horror movie, but it may as well be.
For real.
Yeah.
Not my fucking tempo.
Not my fucking tempo.
Yeah,
it's a phenomenal movie.
Let's just do a show about Whiplash.
We could if we really, it's our show. It's a great film.
Anyway.
It's more of a tense film than a scary film.
Yeah.
But no, so now we know a little bit about his background. We know that he was bullied. We know that he stood up for himself, but that it went about as awry as it can.
Yeah.
Which is, not great.
No.
Not a great thing to happen. So.
Could be better.
Yeah,
could be better.
Could be, I suppose.
But
it depends on whose side you're on, I guess.
Yeah. But then it's time to look at the food critic.
Yes, J.T. Franks.
Yeah. So it's modern day. We're in a restaurant, and it's a beautiful sequence of just close-up shots of beautiful looking food.
Yeah.
And, he's taking the small bites, and, you see the close-ups of him really, and you and I, since we smoke cigars, there's ways that you taste things where you taste things more.
Yeah.
When you interact with your palate versus just the tongue, or.
Yeah. You chew with a little air. You're trying to work your olfactories and stuff like that.
Yeah. So he's, doing all that and stops and sits and writes in his notebook, and waitress comes over and asks if everything is okay. And he just kind of bemoans everything and says, I would just like a little joy.
Yeah, which is
so pretentious.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, if you're going to put yourself out into the world, whether it's cooking or writing poetry or whatever, you're going to get somebody who's going to be like, it's okay, but it doesn't really solve all my problems. And you're like, okay. I thought I was just trying to amuse you for like a half an hour. I didn't realize that what I was supposed to do was change your life forever. And I think I've talked about that on this show, that sometimes I get really frustrated with people who they just set the bar too damn high with movies.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, I hated that or whatever. I'm like, what was wrong with this movie? Like, did I leave a changed person? No. But did I walk out thoroughly entertained for that 90 minutes? Yes. What more do you want
mission accomplished.
For $12 to $14 in a movie theater, or $3.99 at home, or just your Netflix subscription? Like, I don't think that you should expect every experience to be that way. But on the flip side of that, though, a lot of these places that he's going to and reviewing are charging, maybe $100 a plate. Now, this is 2010, so maybe $100, $80 a plate.
Yeah.
So there is a part of me that's like, yeah, but what does this do for me that makes it worth this amount of money? Although I won't lie, the few times in my life I've ate food that was sincerely so expensive it made no sense, I was never buying, which is number one, the best part. But I will say it was shockingly good.
I mean, I can believe it. I can believe it. I've just never been in the position to have that kind of food.
I've lucked out a couple of times. I got to eat line-caught sushi at a restaurant where there were no prices on the menu.
And I'm still mad at you.
And we ordered 9 plates of food. We just kept ordering food. That's what he said to do. The guy I was there with, he was buying. He was like, let's just order some stuff and then we can just order more as we go. So we were just like, we would eat a bunch of fish and then he'd be like, let's get some mackerel and get some more of those rolls. And then we just eat that. And they'd be like, let's get some of this and this. But the second meal we did, we went out and got veal. And again, at a restaurant with no prices on the menu.
I can't even fathom.
It is weird. It is weird to have no prices on the menu. So, but my point is, so I can also see where there's an attitude of like, well, how is this worth this much?
Yeah.
But that being said, he's asking, could I get some joy? Which is strange to me. And then he's like swigging the wine.
Yeah.
And just kind of wrapping up this meal. And all I can think is like, you make a living eating fancy food.
Yeah. And then complaining about it. That's the kicker.
That's the entertainment value.
Yeah.
Of it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the hardest thing about criticisms is it's really hard to be a critic if you're not going to be mean, because that's what people pay for.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they want. That's what they don't pay for. But, that's what people want to.
That's what they show up for.
Well, it's like it goes back to caveman days, you really, really remember when you're told a saber-toothed tiger lives in that cave. Because that's important.
Yeah.
To remember. So I get that, I do get that, but it's kind of become this self-defeating thing with criticism where it's like, it has to be the worst thing I've ever seen. It has to be so terrible you'll never want to watch another movie for the rest of your life. It can't just be like, I didn't mind it, or It was pretty good. It can't. And there's an episode of The Simpsons where Homer becomes a food critic, and the entire city gets fat because he loves every single restaurant. Like he says every place is the best food he ever had because he just loves to eat. So the whole town is like getting bigger and bigger and fatter. So there is something to be said for, I mean, I like to be a good audience to just about anything. I mean, I'll tell you if I didn't love something, but like I try to like the things I watch and the things I eat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but this guy, he's clearly got an axe to grind, that he's got some anger in him. And I think we get to find out a little bit about his personal life when he's done swigging his wine and harassing the waitstaff. But we'll have to wait till after this to find out. So now let's follow, what's his name? JT Franks to his hip, probably Upper East Side apartment where we're introduced to his girlfriend.
Wife.
Sorry.
I initially thought girlfriend too, but yeah, it is his wife.
Yeah, named Peg, I believe. Wait, no. Maybe?
Hold on.
No, it's Catherine.
Okay.
Because Peg was the actress, was the woman that works with the chef.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's Catherine Franks. Sorry, I was looking at the cast thing, and there aren't a lot of characters in this, so I was like, female names. And she is just hanging out just in the apartment in a nightshirt and her underwear, which I think is the perfect way to establish a girlfriend or wife in a movie.
Yeah.
Just because it establishes like their home and they're comfortable.
Exactly.
Is that they just don't care that they're like walking around in their underwears.
Yeah.
And their underwears. And their skivs.
The skivvies.
Skivvies. So, but she's just kind of hanging out, and he is feverishly typing away on his computer and getting ready to update the Gastropunks website.
Does it like physically pain you every time you have to say the name?
No, it physically pains me every time I remember it. Oh, you have nothing more to say?
No. I thought you had more.
Oh,
no,
well, I mean, it's like the whole term gastropub.
Yeah.
I hate that term. It's just so stupid. It's just dumb, gastropub.
No, I get it, because I am not a fan either. I just relish in your pain. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I mustard in your pain. So, but so they're home.
They're home. He's typing away, and she has printed out some of his past quote unquote reviews, and she's reading them as he's typing, and it almost seems like he's inspired by all of the mean stuff that he had said before, and he's kind of like, yeah, that was pretty great, and she's almost aghast at how mean, like, not just, oh, this is mean and critical, but like downright mean, like almost getting to the point of telling people like you should quit cooking or you should kill yourself because the food was so bad. And not even so bad that I got sick, just so bad because it didn't live up to my expectations of perfection.
Yeah.
Which is not great. And she's kind of asking, like, do you need to be this mean? Do you need to be this critical? And he makes the point, like you said, that this is what people come to his blog for. Like, this is how he makes money.
Yeah. Is
by being mean. So it's not like he can just pump the brakes, because this is what he does for a living. And she says that, yeah, of course, he's always been a critic, but she's noticed that over the past couple years, it's been worse. And now we're starting to dig deeper. So he says, yeah, of course, things have gotten worse. And they get into a pretty bad argument. And he says, like, he's realized that he doesn't care about her anymore.
Well, before that, he kind of says the thing.
Yeah. Okay. Was it saying
he says the thing about, having your child die.
Kind of does that.
He says that before he even says anything about how he feels about their marriage.
Yeah.
So we get the hint that they lost a child.
Mm-hmm. Because that's what it was. Is she tries to kind of diffuse things and mentions going to an appointment in the day, the next morning, and he mentions like, oh, he can't stand hospitals. So that's the first like little hint. And then she asks even if he even wants to try having another kid, which is the other little hint. And then, it kind of escalates, and then that's when he drops the, having your kid die thing. So we realize that while he has always been a food critic, he's probably taking out a lot of his pain at losing his child on all these people. And
on everything, on his wife too.
On everybody. Like he's gone into self-destruct mode, really, is what it is. And it seems like he's gotten a good audience. So like that's extra encouragement. So yeah, he admits to her like he doesn't care. He doesn't care anymore. He doesn't care about trying to have another kid. He doesn't care about their marriage. He doesn't care about her. So she leaves. And he kind of, there's a sequence where he's like restless and walking around his apartment, goes to start writing his novel and then stops and then, sits there drinking and just kind of languishing. And then we go back to Peter in his little homestead in upstate New York. And at first they're chopping wood, kind of your normal rustic stuff. And then he goes inside and he's got several sets of locks and keys, and he takes them out and he starts marking them.
Yeah, he's meticulously numbering them.
Which is interesting, but very unsettling. And then we go back to JT. And he's kind of meandering around his house. He seems very suspicious and very restless. And the movie does a great job of building the tension. You know what's going to happen. You just don't know when. And he's acting, really scared as he's leaving his apartment building. And we really think that somebody's going to come and get him, like, while he's in the staircase. Sorry.
Stairwell.
Mm-hmm. We really think somebody's going to get him in the stairwell, but he gets out of the stairwell. We start feeling like he's safe. And then someone comes up from behind and hits him in the head and he blacks out. And when he wakes up, he's chained up in a basement. And Peter comes down down these stairs and shining a light in his eyes and kind of takes him out. And it's a beautiful shot of them coming out from a cellar. And at first we don't really notice or can't really see what's happening because it's, such a wide shot. And then we see Peter motion with a rifle and he starts leading JT off into the woods. So we realize very quickly that things are not looking great for JT because he's all chained up. He's being led through the woods in the middle of nowhere. And it's great because JT says something like he could run away, he could escape, like he could get back to civilization. And Peter just points the rifle in the air, pulls the trigger, and says, "Yeah, I don't think we're in the middle of nowhere, but we're pretty close."
Yeah, and he fires the gun, and he's like, nobody cares. Like,
yeah,
nobody can hear anything. And the first thing he does is hand him a bucket. But what he has to do with that bucket, you'll have to wait to find out till after this. JT's got this bucket, and he's told that he needs to go down to the creek and gather water, then take the water back to his tree, and as long as he does those things, he can drink. And we get the impression it's been at least a day that he has had no food or water.
Mm-hmm.
So he's being forced to do this and to follow these instructions. So, of course, he gets down there, he gets water from the bucket, he's walking along, he's, of course, exhausted and confused, and his hands are tied very strangely, very tightly. And he walks along with the bucket, but what does he do? He stops to rest for a minute and sneaks a sip of the water. I think he just grabs it with his hand and, like, sucks down some of the water. So, not acceptable. Did not follow the rules. So... he gets the water gets spilled. Peter just spills the water out and tells him, like, I guess you'll have to try again tomorrow.
Yep.
And that kind of sets the tone for the whole movie. This is a person, JT, who, as far as Peter understands, has never done much of anything other than tear down other people. So how about you learn some discipline and you learn how to do the things you claim, because, You said that Heinlein quote earlier,
Mhm.
which I felt was an okay quote, but I prefer my version of that, which is those who cannot do teach, and those who cannot teach Jim. So that's the version I always liked.
That's a good one.
You never heard that?
No, but I was homeschooled, so.
Well, I mean, I guess that, yeah, I guess that's the excuse for ignorance then. But no, so I get where he's coming from, though, this attitude of like, can you even be like remotely as dedicated and disciplined as I am to my craft when all you are trying to do is drink some water?
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I think that's a really fascinating mentality.
Oh, absolutely.
And having to do it at gunpoint, of course, because, otherwise why would he? And he is, very mouthy and very, why would I do this? He's like, because you want to drink, don't you? 3 days. That's about how long you have without water.
Yep.
So I thought that was a really great way to kind of begin what is going to be going down.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, while this is all happening, I know it's coming up soon, but we're getting ready to meet the private investigator.
Yep.
Named William Coley, played by Larry Fessenden, who starts sniffing around Peter Gray because he's been hired by the wife to figure out what happened to JT Franks. He does mention at one point that his website gets 40,000 hits a day.
Yeah.
So someone's going to notice I'm missing. Of course, before that, he had literally told his wife, like, I don't care about you at all. Go away. And then she went away, and then he wasn't there when she came home, which I'm sure didn't seem odd.
Yeah.
Because
they just had a huge fight.
Yeah,
so,
really.
Like, he could be going somewhere. He could be going to visit his family
But the fact that he's not answering his phone,
that's a little concerning.
That's a little worrying. So he's just asking questions, and he's a great side character. He's very, very quirky, very fun. He's always chewing on swizzle sticks and straws and doing the whole, like, when I was a cop, we always thought blah, blah. Like, he's just, pontificating and being kind of kooky.
I love his character.
Oh, he's a great character. And Fessenden is built for characters like that. That's one of his biggest strengths as an actor. So we have that kind of going on as well. And his wife trying to figure out what the heck is going on. But now we get into probably my favorite scene, which is this is the one where they're in the basement. Yeah.
Yes.
They're in the basement, and all of a sudden set up in front of him is a little camping stove and a cast iron skillet.
Mm-hmm.
And Gray pulls out the review of a breakfast. And the review is scathing, saying, like, even a chimp should be able to make eggs
over easy.
Eggs over easy.
Because first Peter asks him, "How do you like your eggs?" And JT responds, "Over easy." And Peter pulls out the review and, basically says, like, even a monkey could make eggs over easy. It's super simple. You just put the egg on the skillet, 2 minutes, either side, flip it, and then you're done.
Well, that's actually what he said about the steak.
Oh, that's what he said. But yeah.
I know what no, because I also was almost said that too. And then I remembered that's the steak that comes a little bit later, but it's fine.
So JT basically posits that this is the challenge, because it's been several days now since JT's eaten. So the agreement is, the rules are that he can eat as many eggs as he wants, as long as they're cooked medium or cooked over easy to perfection.
No runny yellows.
And his delivery is just so great because it's almost instructional. It feels like he's hosting a cooking TV show.
No runny yellows. Yeah. He can have as many eggs as he wants, as long as they're cooked to perfection, over easy, no runny yellows. And that's the thing that you and I quote from this movie all the time to each other is no runny yellows. So he cracks the egg and his hands are tied all weird. He even says, like, how can I do it like this? And he doesn't even answer him. He's just like, go on. But he does crack the egg, and he does a little chef's trick where he kind of holds the yolk and then lets it go.
Yeah.
Which I've never done or really heard about, but I'm sure it's a chef's trick. I also want to mention that in all the sequences where Peter is cooking, I don't know if that was actually James LaGrosse's hands, but if they were, he studied, because those hands are impeccably preparing the food.
Yeah, like when he's like dicing and mincing stuff, and he's like got the perfect form.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
it's incredible to watch. I guess we should open this with like that. I grew up with a professional.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't really he was like a quasi chef. I mean, he learned through hard knocks, but like my stepdad was a restaurateur, and a lot of my kitchen habits came from him. It's why I'm very intense in the kitchen, because he was very intense in the kitchen.
Very intense.
I'm not. You know what? I'm not as bad as him, because he gets the egg in there. It's sizzling in the pan. He goes to flip it. He flips it over. And then that little bit of yolk escapes, which, by the way, is one of the things I hate, because you like your eggs fried, and I try my best with them.
Oh, you're getting so good with eggs.
Well, the real problem is when the eggs are old.
Yeah.
They break a lot easier. But of course, these are all farm fresh eggs.
Well, because they're naturally sourced.
Of course. But he flips it. The yellow runs out of it. And as soon as he says, runny yellow, he grabs the egg to try and eat it anyway.
He just scarf it.
And he whacks him with the burning hot cast iron pan, pulling a chunk of flesh off the side of his face.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you really start to realize, oh, okay, then this is going to get
where we're going.
Pretty brutal. And we'll find out just how brutal right after this.
So JT comes to in the basement, and he's still chained up, tied up. He's gagged, and there's, kind of flickering light. And as he regains consciousness, he realizes that he's just on the floor, and the only thing in front of him in that cellar, in that basement, is a TV, and it's broadcasting a live show that Peter is doing on his cooking show.
It's broadcasting the last episode of Feast.
Yes.
The final episode.
So, he's, Peter's like hamming it up for the camera. And for once, he doesn't seem to be like getting ready to jump across the set and strangle his co-host. Like,
although she like literally sabotages what he's cooking.
Yeah. She hides one of his tools or something.
Yeah, it might have been the whisk or something.
So, yeah, I think it was the whisk. But anyway, so he's actually playing nice, but this is like not only terrifying being in this situation and painful, but this is really frustrating for JT, because now Peter's just toying with him.
Yeah, he's kind of winking at the camera, knowing that he's watching.
Like this, he's really doing this show for you, bud. So, Peter kind of passes out again. The next day, he's woken up, or JT passes out again. And the next day, he's woken up by Peter just stomping down the stairs, walking right over to him and just yelling, "Wake up, wake up, wake up," while poking him with a cattle prod.
Mm-hmm.
So cattle prods him, wakes him up, tortures him some more, drags him outside, and it's a beautiful summer day, fall day, something like that. And there's a grill. And Peter's got this beautiful cut of steak that he's cooked up, and he starts extolling the virtues of like the fact that this steak was, hormone free and raised right here in the valley, and he knows the farmer that he bought it from, and just how much better everything tastes when you get the food directly from the source and all this. And then asks JT again, "How do you like your steak?" And he says, "Medium well." And
No,
that's
he doesn't. He says medium rare.
medium rare.
It would have been a whole different scene if he had said medium well. He would have just been beating him.
You're wrong. You're wrong. And that is why you die. So he does say medium rare.
There's no, I mean, who
in their right
medium
mind?
Well?
No, you're right.
I mean, I'm sure somebody does, but you know what I'm saying.
But they're wrong.
I like my steak rare. I usually say medium rare because I don't trust them to get it rare. But rare is really where it's at for me.
Yeah. Really just like my steaks.
Your steaks are very good. Although I almost always get the rarest of them.
You say you like it rare.
Yeah. Same with the chicken breast.
I am so sorry about that.
Oh, yeah, that's hilarious considering what we're talking about, that you accidentally gave us food poisoning.
Yeah,
well,
like a week ago.
It was your first experiment with sous vide.
Yes, in my defense, it was a brand new way of cooking for me. And I could have avoided basically 3 days of agony for both of us cumulatively if I would have just remembered, like, oh yeah, you should use a thermometer before you serve the meat.
I mean, and it's my own fault too. Once I started to notice it seemed a little raw, I just stopped eating, but I probably should have said something immediately, but I was trying to be polite because you really tried hard on that meal.
Chicken sashimi.
Yum. Chicken tartare.
Ooh. So anyway.
Yeah.
So JT says medium rare. Peter pulls out another scathing review, this time about a steak place, and says, basically anyone could make a medium rare steak.
Yeah,
it's
3.5 minutes
on either side.
On one side, 3.5 minutes on the other. A monkey could do it.
Yeah. So now the challenge is he has to perfectly cook this steak, and he's allowed to eat. And JT is more and more broken now. Like he's kind of past the bargaining point, and he's really at just like accepting like this is going to go on for a while. So he's just trying to comply now. So he really does try to cook the steak, even though like his hands are tied up all weird, and he really doesn't have the proper tools to be, because he's just only got like a fork.
You can cook a steak with just a fork
with your hands tied up.
I mean, I don't see how it'd be any different. I mean,
that's fair.
I'm just saying. I mean, like cooking a steak is. I mean, I'm not saying cooking a steak is easy, but I mean, like the concept. Like if I'm cooking, like just quickly cooking a steak or whatever, or even like a piece of fish or a piece of chicken, unless it's a really flaky piece of fish, I can just do it all with a fork.
Yeah, it was a very fatty piece, though. It was like kind of coming apart.
Yeah, it should be easier to not overdo if it's fatty.
It should be, in theory.
In theory.
In theory. So he tries making the steak. Peter takes it off the grill. He's, cutting it up, talking, kind of monologuing a little bit, and gets increasingly upset and incensed until he growls, "And your steak is overdone," and spits it out and starts beating him.
Well, he throws his steak out into the woods first, which is, just great because that's his food. And I want to mention that my favorite moment of that scene, though, is when he says, like, it's done, and he's like, okay, and he, like, takes it on the plate, and he goes to start cutting into it. I just imagine the guy going, "It has to rest for 5 to 10 minutes. Holdover cooking."
Yeah, you said that last night, and I nearly died.
I was raised in a very intense kitchen, although we almost never had steak. So,
well, yeah.
But holdover cooking was something I heard especially with eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like, pull them out now, holdover cooking.
Yeah, they will. They'll keep cooking for a little while.
Keep kicking.
Keep kicking. Kicking. So, tosses his steak into the bushes. They get in, starts beating him. They get into a kind of a fight because JT's able to kind of like get a hold of him, and JT bites Peter's hand like really bad, like bites a chunk out of his hand
and spits it out.
Spits it out, and Peter picks it up and like tries putting it back on, that whole thing. So that's great. That's a fun afternoon, of course.
Well, I mean, I think it was a very educational afternoon because I don't think you can teach greatness of cooking with kindness, just like you can't train an elephant to do circus stuff by being nice.
Yeah, you've said that to me so many times. You can't train that with kindness.
Yeah, you can't teach that with kindness. That's like my favorite way to ruin any time you're watching any kind of like circus thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people hate the circus, but like, yeah, that's always, it's like an elephant's doing like some standing trick. And I'm just, can't teach that with kindness. It's just a nice way to ruin your day. But speaking of ruining your day, things are about to get a whole hell of a lot darker right after this.
So we're following Peter. He is back at the studio. The crew's having some kind of like rap party or something.
Yeah, they're popping champagne and giving speeches.
And the producers being very nice, which producers, that's like their job, is to be nice until they're not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, basically saying, you did a great job. And like you brought, you two people brought all these fans together and all this. And Peter's playing the part of being a good cooking show host. And then he kind of slinks off to his changing room to kind of collect himself. And someone's waiting for him there. It's the private investigator. And Peter does a very good job of kind of like playing it cool. But he's still visibly perturbed that the private investigator is there. And even asks point blank, like, am I a person of interest? And the private investigator's like, hey, I'm not a cop. I'm just asking questions because, the guy's wife is very concerned and like some things aren't adding up. And he even says like, and thing is, I can smell bullshit from a mile away and some things aren't adding up. Starts asking about his hand. How'd you hurt your hand? I was cooking. Well, what were you making? Souffle. What kind of souffle? Cheese. Yeah. How was it? Good.
I think he said great. I feel like he said
good or great.
He said something more than good.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Which was a great exchange. It's a great way to learn so much about both those characters. And I love that scene. And, Peter kind of excuses himself. The private investigator walks off. He's going to his car. We know where this is going because he's sitting there waiting in his car, chewing on his swizzle stick, just trying to play it cool. And he see Peter's car just pull out suddenly, almost getting T-boned by someone else because he's like not waiting for the right of way in traffic. So he starts tailing him. Private investigator tails him back, to the countryside, sees that his story is actually kind of starting to make sense because he had noticed how dirty Peter's car was. And Peter said, well, I live in the country. And driving on those back roads, sure enough, like it's a rough drive. It's pretty bumpy, pretty muddy.
Which, by the way, reminds me, after he kidnapped JT, there's a great sequence when he's cleaning out his car. Like he's cleaning the back seat and he's cleaning it totally like a chef.
Yes.
Like his hands dragging across and getting all the stuff out and
cupping it up and then cleaning it, the tiny circles.
It's exactly. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that real quick that when he cleans it, he is so cleaning it in a very chefy way.
It's great. That's why I like it, is because there's so much going on with the characters. You learn so much about the characters just by watching how they interact with the world.
Yeah, and I believe at this point, by the way, the private investigator mentions you guys have something kind of in common. Your brother disappeared when you were a kid, and the Franks lost their 5-year-old son to leukemia.
And Peter was totally okay.
All right. Yeah. Well, the idea of bringing up something like that from the private investigator's standpoint would be to try to put you off balance.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's possible that because he has police department ties and law enforcement ties, that he could have asked around and people could have told him that always seemed kind of weird, or the scuttlebutt was that they went out together and only one son came back, but nothing came of it because he was a little kid. So by putting those feelers out, he's just trying to push him off balance, especially if it turns out that that's a skeleton in his closet. He wants to make sure he's like, I can see your skeletons.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really interesting sequence. And but Peter reacts like not at all, completely nonplussed by those questions.
Yeah.
So now he's followed him all the way out into the country. And yeah, his claims seem pretty reasonable. And
especially when he gets inside.
Oh, when he breaks in.
When he breaks in.
Yeah.
He breaks in and he's kind of scoping out the house, the inside of the house, walks around, and he gets to the fridge, opens up the fridge, and what's in the fridge?
Cheese souffle.
Cheese souffle. And he sets down his swizzle stick and picks. It's kind of like, it was actually kind of gross. You and I were both grossed out a little bit, but he actually takes the plate of the souffle out, just takes a bite with his hands,
he
and just
pulls
eats
it
it.
out with his finger,
And he goes, pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
And then he takes a swig directly from the milk jug.
And it's not just any milk jug. Oh, what are those called? It's like not a decanter, but like, when you're at like a nicer, I don't mean like a super fancy restaurant, but you're at like a nice place where they'll give you like a little jug of water of your own. It's like a little like water vase or something.
And it's not quite a jug. It's nicer than that.
Yeah. It's clearly that's like farm fresh milk kept in a little glass container, and he just swigs down some of it and puts it back in the door of the fridge. And I'm like, oh, there's already too much bacteria in there.
No.
I can tell you stories about my weird friends who fight to get their raw milk. I don't think it should be illegal for you to have raw milk, but
there's a reason.
I think you have every right to get diarrhea any way you want. I choose it from Rachel and sous vide. You might choose it from raw milk. Oh, that was pretty funny.
The best part was how delayed the reaction was for me, though.
Yeah, you felt like a little off the next day. I was horribly
You were horrible
sick.
The next day.
I had a raging headache, and my stomach was just doing backflips, and I thought, I'm just really exhausted because it was the end of the the nightmare month of work. Not that December will be much easier. It turns out December is probably going to be just as much content in some ways. In some ways, there won't be as many novellas. But anyway, that's not my point. My point is, so he's wandering around the property, and at that point, it sure seems like everything this guy has said is the truth.
Mm-hmm. It's adding up.
And he's definitely made it clear that he's going on a hunch and a long shot because he's got nothing else to go on.
Yeah.
Because when he spoke, when very soon after this, we don't hear him interact with the wife, but she calls to leave him a message. It says, like, I haven't heard from you in a day or so. Like, can I get an update? So clearly she's clueless as to where the hell he could be other than, like maybe with friends or something.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy is definitely like chasing a way out their lead, probably in part because they have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So she can afford to pay him to, he's like, I could just chase down everything if you want, but it'll cost you, so. Which is my favorite line. Like, you can't be a private investigator without the line, but it'll cost you. So, but just as things seem like they're probably all right, they aren't. And we'll talk about that right after this.
So the private investigators snooping around after being gross and drinking milk directly from the carton.
From the glass
thingy. But again, he leaves his swizzle stick on the counter and walks off. He's walking around the property, and it seems all quiet. And he starts walking away because, like, he isn't a police officer. He doesn't technically, like, even have a warrant to be there. He's
breaking and entering.
Totally breaking.
I think the reason he left his swizzle stick is because he was planning to come right back.
Yeah. But as he's walking around, he hears a very muffled voice coming from a cellar door, and he goes to investigate. And of course, there's JT. So he goes down, and JT's almost delirious and kind of like, at first terrified because he thinks that it's Peter come back to torture him some more.
Yeah.
And the private investigator like manages to calm him down just a little bit and says, I'm going to find something to get your chains loose and I'll be right back.
Yeah, his reaction, the private investigator's reaction is kind of like, okay, all right, let's like, he doesn't seem more like totally shocked. He's just kind of like, okay, this lead's worked out. Let's get you out of here right now. So yeah, he even says to him, he's like, I'm going to find out a way to get you out of here. I will be right back. I promise I will be right back. And he's, saying, no, don't go. And he runs off to try and find anything to get him loose, because to break into the cellar, he had to use an axe to cut open the chain.
So he goes back for the axe,
which isn't there, but he finds it.
Well, yeah, he does. He does find it. Yeah. So JT's down in the cellar by himself, and the private investigator kind of shows up in the doorway and kind of wobbles down the stairs and just falls face forward, and there's an axe in his back.
Better than a back's in your axe.
No.
Sorry. But no, there's an axe in his back and he is dead.
D-E-D, dead.
Yes.
And obviously this is very, very traumatizing to JT. Then we have a nice, beautiful little hunting excursion with Peter. And he's out in his homestead, out in the woods, hunting a rabbit and picking berries and kind of enjoying the scenery. We throughout the whole movie, we get the sense that he is a very, very good shot, and he is very good outdoorsman. Like he's not just for show. Like he is good at gathering and kind of finding food from the land. So then he gets back. He starts making this painstakingly detailed meal. Preparing the rabbit, making his own pasta, and, preparing this sauce. And now it's JT's final test. And I think this scene for me is truly the scariest psychologically, because it is the moment when we see JT totally give up all hope, like I was talking about in the beginning. So in front of JT, there are two identical looking dishes. And again, Peter pulls out a review, and this time it's the review that JT gave that pretty much cost Peter his whole career. And it's a review of this rabbit stew with mulberry ragu, and JT's talking about how he feels bad for the rabbit being served with blackberry or with mulberry.
Well, with the very mulberries that they eat.
Yes. And talking about how there's the meal is silly, and it's not a good meal because it's not serious, and it's just this weird kind of who even would have done this, and kind of his ending thought is that, by the way, he can tell the difference. His palate is so refined that he can tell the difference between local mulberries and frozen imported mulberries.
Frozen imported Ecuadorian mulberries, I believe is what he said.
Yeah.
And that I'll tell, okay. I've been trying not to make this show entirely about me bitching about critics. But this is where I get his insanity. Okay? Because it is one thing to say something tastes bland. It is one thing to say something is too spicy. It is one thing to say something is too salty. It is another thing to say this is an apricot and it's a fucking banana. And this is where I get really mad when it comes to critics, because him saying like, oh, these are imported mulberries, when we literally saw where he picks mulberries on his own property. I did a movie once. Well, okay, 2 examples. I did a movie back in 2010 called Faces of Schlock. Whether it's your kind of thing or not doesn't matter. But they had said about the short film I made that this looked bad and this looked bad, and then they said, and the sound was clearly from the camera, the microphone on top of the camera. I used a $750 Zeppelin microphone. Like I used a real high-end microphone, and the sound sounds like a high-end microphone. We just simply didn't do that. We used a really good mic because I borrowed it from my friend, ironically named Mike. But I borrowed it. Then, like years later, I do Babysitter Massacre. You can watch it on Tubi right now. And they said like this kind of, cobbled together garbage shot on an iPhone. Now this is 2012, 2013. We pulled focus. Like there were lens choices. Like that wasn't possible back then with an iPhone at all. And all I could think was like, that's not a criticism. You're literally just lying. You're wrong. What are you talking about? Like, you could say the movie's boring. I can't say, well, you're wrong. It's not boring. I can't do that. But you can't say like, oh, well, the whole movie is made of sand. What? No, it's not. That stuff drove me up the wall more than people saying like, I'm terrible and should quit and should die. Hearing somebody say like, this kind of garbage shot on a cell phone. It's like, I used lenses. And it's obvious. Like I pulled the focus of those shots. It can't be on a camera, on a phone. It literally, ironically, on a camera that costs less than an iPhone at that time. So that's the kind of thing that drives me crazy. So the idea that he's like, I could taste imported mulberries. It's like, you're not just critiquing, you're slandering.
Yeah.
You're saying this person is a liar. And that's even worse than what I'm describing, because it's not like I opened the movie with like, we used this equipment. At least, there's interpretation. But for them to say these are fresh mulberries from where the rabbits are hunted, and you say, no, they're not, you're claiming they're a liar and you're demonstrably wrong.
Yeah.
So I really get the rage that can instill, because it's like, I'm not wrong. I know what I did.
I made the thing.
Yeah. Like I did the thing. What are you friggin' talking about? And the interesting twist, though, about this gentleman's refined palate, we'll get into right after this.
Peter lays out these 2 dishes, and after reading the scathing review, explains the rules of the game. These dishes are indeed identical, except for one very subtle difference.
One minute difference. One very subtle difference.
Very, very subtle.
Yeah.
In fact, it's hardly a difference at all. One of them is made with the native mulberries that he's collected. The other one is made with belladonna, also naturally occurring in his area. Looks very, very similar in every way to mulberries, but is extremely poisonous.
Well, there's another term that some people may not know for belladonna, which is nightshade.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, the technical term, I looked it up just to make sure, is deadly nightshade.
Deadly nightshade,
That's literally the name, is Antropa belladonna, commonly known as deadly nightshade or belladonna.
And explains that for children, 3 to 5 berries is deadly. For adults, 15 to 20. And then explains what kind of symptoms you will experience. And says, now that we know the rules, JT gets to taste one bite of each dish. And then after he's tasted one bite of each dish, he gets to decide which one he has to finish, because he can, if he's got such a sophisticated palate, he'll have no problem distinguishing the difference between one that was made with harmless, delicious mulberries and the other one with deadly nightshade.
And of course, and because of the amount of berries in there, I think he said there's 30 or 20 berries in the whole thing. One bite should only make him mildly discomforted.
Yeah.
Because people have been taking belladonna recreationally for centuries, I think.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I wouldn't recommend it, but you can.
Yeah. Not a fun time necessarily. I mean, I guess it depends on your definition of fun. So Peter does, like, he does start to fight back a little bit, and not physically, psychologically. Peter's kind of saying, like, what? So you're basically just going to kill me now. And Peter even says, like, no, you can even choose not to participate. You don't even have to play this game, but we're going to keep doing this because clearly you need to learn these lessons. So, like, you don't have to participate now, but eventually you're going to have to keep continuing with the tests. So, okay, JT kind of resigns himself, and the tension builds because, again, he hasn't eaten now on what, a week or more, 10 days?
Yeah.
A very, very long time. So even just you and I, we've done intermittent fasting, and you know how different after just like 16 hours of not eating, how different your palate is.
Yeah, it's much more intense.
So he's starving, literally, and his palate is all weird. And he sits there and belaboringly takes the first bite, chews it, savors it, and goes to take the second bite. And Peter even stops JT and says, cleanse your palate.
Yeah, he pours him a glass of water. Oh, and did you mention that he actually let him have one arm loose?
He does let him have one hand.
Because he was tied to a chair this time. He's not in the basement. He's actually in the dining room.
As any good meal should be served in the dining room.
Of course.
So he cleanses his palate, and then he takes the second bite, savors it, thanks, and kind of nods at the first plate and says, that's the one. That's the one with mulberry. Okay. Peter says, okay, you've made your choice. Eat. And he just scarfs it. Like, in 10 seconds flat, he's demolished this plated food. And like you said, he's shoveling it in. He's not using utensils. He's shoveling it in his face. He's like a toddler eating a cake, just like smearing it all over himself because he's so fucking hungry. And there's a beat. And then he starts to cough and choke a little bit. And Peter says, are we getting a little constriction in our airways? Are we starting to have some problems? And JT's like turning red. And, you know, he's eaten the one with deadly nightshade. And Peter isn't relishing in his victory as much as being utterly disappointed that JT couldn't taste the difference.
Well, are you forgetting the best part?
What's the best? Maybe I am forgetting the best
when
part.
JT starts reviewing the food.
Oh, I was going to get to that.
Okay, I was going to get to that. That's the best part. Yeah.
But my thought is, what if JT didn't pick wrong? Maybe he wanted to die.
Oh, I thought that's why he was mad. I thought he was mad because he was like, no, I knew you chose, because he even says, like, you know, how could you not tell the difference between nightshade and mulberries? I think he knew that he did it on purpose because he just didn't want to suffer anymore.
Yeah. And that's what makes his final review, quote unquote, so much more chilling, is that he was like, no, this is how I'm going to go out. And not only am I going out on as best of my terms as can be negotiated in this present circumstance. But then I'm going to give the final review and, is totally lashing on him about, how the rabbit isn't cooked right and how
he's like laughing and wheezing and saying like the pasta overcooked, the
ragu sour.
Yeah, I love that. The way he says it, because his face is all bloody and bruised and beaten. Sour.
So that is the scariest scene to me, because that's the darkest depths of human desperation right there.
Yeah.
But he had given up, he's given up all hope. He's trying to kill himself. But he's going out on his own terms, which is scary.
It is scary, but unfortunately, there may be a contingency plan for this that I think is even scarier than what you're talking about. And we'll get to that right after this. So, as a great chef, he's ready for, the courses aren't over yet, let's say. So Peter pulls out a needle as JT is dying and says, "This is the antidote. We're not done, or I'm not done with you yet," and sticks it in his neck and pumps him, and he starts breathing again. And that was, to me, even scarier than JT's acceptance, although acceptance of like your own fate, it can be, it is very unnerving. Did I show you King of the Ants?
No, you've just been
Really?
threatening to show me King of the Ants.
I've never
for
shown it
ages.
to you. That blows my mind. Oh man, it's great. There's basically a sequence where there's a lot to that movie, but they're basically beating a guy in a shed every day, trying to give him enough brain damage so that he can't tell anybody what they've done. Because they figure nobody will ask questions if he dies or disappears, people are going to look. But if he just shows up and he's touched in the head, they're just going to be like, he must have fell down or something. So they're wrapping his head in like foam cushion and then hitting him with a golf club in the side of the head every day, again and again, and leaving him in a hot shed and only giving him water once a day. And after a few times, he's like crapping himself and he's, losing his mind. They show him like having these terrifying nightmares and stuff.
Ugh.
But at one point when they're in there laughing and drinking beer and they're getting ready to do the thing, they look over at him and he's just wrapping the thing around his head and tying the knot. Wow, your face. Holy moly. Okay, I got to show you that one. That one's not quite a horror movie either. It's more of an action thriller drama. But like, wow, your face. Yeah, because that's when I think about like the absolute sense of like acceptance and defeat and etc. I think of that scene.
Yeah.
Because and even the guys in the scene, they're all like, what is he doing? Because he's just wrapping the thing around his head and tying it on like they usually do. Yeah. So anyway. You're like, oh shit right now. So now we find out that there is an even bigger plan. And I will say, as we get into the remainder of the movie, this is probably my least favorite plot device. I just feel like it was a little bit easier than the rest of it, as I just say how much I hate critics. But he now kidnaps the wife.
Yeah.
Brings her out to the farm, and she is now tied up, and JT is freaked out because he thinks, something awful is going to happen to her. And then Peter leaves JT in the basement, or leaves her in the basement and takes JT up and into the forest, where he's dressed in his hunting camouflage with his little beret and his rifle.
He looks great except for the beret. Like the beret for me is what pushes it over the edge.
Well, I love that because he's so pretentious.
Oh, absolutely.
He's got to be like that. But as he's marching him into the woods, he's basically saying, like, I'm going to hunt you.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be game. And then he says that, you know, he says something along the lines of like, Catherine probably won't even realize what she's eating.
Yeah, he said like, well, she won't realize what she's eating at first.
At first, yeah.
The ribs may be a bit stringy.
I may have to braise them actually. And then he even says like, I might even try a little bit myself. And this is the only part I wasn't crazy about. I just felt like that was almost too horror movie bad guy to like resort to cannibalism.
Yeah.
And I felt like being a chef and then feeding somebody their own loved one was a bit on the nose. But
Eric Cartman.
But I will say that I think had he, and I'm not saying I wish this is how the movie went, but I think that if he had been feeding him Catherine,
Ooh.
I think that would have made more sense.
Yeah.
From a perspective of like, you know, like what did Catherine ever do for him to do that? I guess, you know, the mortifying thought to JT
yes
would be hell. But like, you know, I don't know, like I'm shrugging a little bit. Like, I guess that's, you know, hell, but like he'll be dead. Like, I feel like it would have been more horrific if he had been feeding him Catherine. But I think that would have made more sense to what the character was about. But yeah, so that was the only part I don't love. And I love basically every minute of this movie, but I just felt like that came kind of out of nowhere and was a little bit more dark and horror-y than the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
But he goes to hunt the guy and it doesn't quite go exactly the way you'd expect. I mean, he runs away, he gets shot. And if you want to take it from there, I mean, you know, it gets kind of messy.
So, as Peter is chasing JT through the woods, Catherine is able to get a like little shard of glass while she's down in the cellar, and she starts like cutting herself free.
Yeah,
so
her neck is tied to a post, and that's it. Basically, she's not nearly as intensely bound as her husband was.
So he's clearly like, you know, not. I wouldn't say he's underestimated her. It's just like she's not in Peter's consideration. So, you know, Peter is chasing JT, chasing him through the woods. JT's able to kind of get the one up on him, you know, kind of lose him a little bit by backtracking up and down the creek almost, losing it. So he would lose his trail. And so JT's able to like kind of make his way back to the farmhouse where Catherine, now that she's gotten her hands free, she gets her neck free, she's able to breathe, and she starts kind of like investigating around the house. And that's when she finds a body, the body of the PI.
Yes.
And she very quickly starts to put together what's going on. So she runs to the phone and dials 911, says, help, you know, we've been kidnapped. And of course they ask what they're supposed to always ask is, you know, well, what's the address of your emergency? And she doesn't know. And they're asking, okay, well, do you see any landmarks? Do you see anything you can describe to us? And she hears someone coming. So she carefully puts the phone down and tries to, you know, kind of like find her place of safety, find a place to hide.
Right.
And it's JT. And so they are reunited and they start running out the house together, trying to figure out a plan of how to get out, how to escape. And they realize that Peter's car is there. So he tells her to go into the car. He's going to go back to the cabin and get the keys. And the whole time we're holding our breaths because we're wondering like where Peter could be. He manages to get the keys. He manages to get the car started, and Peter finally makes his arrival on the scene, and he starts firing at them. And they almost are able to drive away. And then, just like I said, though, he's a real good shot. He gets JT right in the head, and the car crashes. Catherine gets out, and she's severely injured. she's struggling and Peter's coming for her. And as he's walking up, he's kind of reminiscing almost. And he starts quoting what his brother said in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
About how there's creators and destroyers, and he who would seek to unite them seeks to destroy the world. And then he looks at Catherine kind of cowering in the grass, and she's all beaten up and bruised, and she just got out of the car crash. And he, very disappointed in himself, he says, I guess I am a destroyer after all.
And before we get to the final ending part, did we gloss over that he does confess to killing and hiding his brother's body? I think
we did gloss over that.
Well, there's a lot to cover, but it was actually, I believe, when he was taking him out in the woods to hunt.
Yes.
He informs him basically of what we saw, but from his perspective, he was always a mean boy. He was always beating me up and bullying me, blah, 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 blah. I stabbed him in the neck, and then I buried him in a very shallow hole and covered him in leaves, and no one ever found him. So I just wanted to mention that, because as you were saying, I was like, oh, wait, when did that happen? So we know that he didn't plan to kill his brother, but we also know that he was not really perturbed about doing it.
He did not show any remorse.
Yeah, there's no remorse at all, which again, I get as a younger sibling. But no, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack you.
No, thank you for that. Thank you.
So we know that as well. But no, so this is an incredible moment. You have that moment where as he's got her down in the grass, he kind of realizes maybe I am a destroyer.
Yeah. So in a kind of mirror to what we know is the beginning of the movie, he gets on top of her and starts strangling her. And she's losing consciousness. She's trying to push him off. She's trying to get free. She's trying to find any way to save herself. And then she notices something, and she grabs a stick and she stabs him right in the neck, just like he stabbed his brother.
Yep.
And he, looks stunned, and he falls back, and he's taking his last breaths and just looks up at the moon. And then the movie ends.
Yeah, that's where it ends.
That's all she wrote.
And Bitter Feast comes to an end, and it is an incredible ride. I love that ending because I think that, remember how I said earlier that one of the elements was perversion?
Yes.
To me, the fact that he became what he despised is a perversion of the things he had become in life. Now, it's possible, we don't know everything about his character. For all we know, he was a sociopath always. For all we know, that was why he was so good at becoming a chef. He was so cutthroat. He didn't care who he hurt to get what he wanted. He didn't care about any of it. He just did what he wanted and got what he wanted and blah, 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 blah. We have no idea.
Yeah.
Or he could have been a relatively normal guy who just didn't take shit from anybody. But then when he snapped, he basically went back to that baser instinct because as a child, everything in his life got better after he killed his brother, his bully, the person who was tormenting him.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't premeditated originally, but the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Life got better.
Yeah.
His parents gave him more attention. He wasn't bullied all the time. He, did all these things. So in a way, it was almost like a reset, like a trip to simpler times is kind of the way I look at it from his perspective. I mean, and to have him do all of this stuff and then kind of realize that he is doing what his brother was doing after all this time of wanting to be a creator, of putting things into the world. He was a destroyer. And then he immediately gets the fate that he had given destroyers in the past. I think that's a really fascinating thing. And if you want to go even deeper with all of his hunting and stuff, you could even read that as almost kind of an anti-meat message of, I'm not saying that that's what they were going for. They were trying to make a PETA movie. I'm just saying you could look at it poetically as well, he was killing all these rabbits and hunting venison and hunting all these things. Maybe he was destroying more than he was creating.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. That's just a thought. But
Yeah.
I mean, what are you thinking?
Well, because I like where you're going with the, the meat message. And I think that ties into one of the big thoughts that I've had, and I'm sure this is, lots of people have talked about it, but yes, JT, was a quote unquote destroyer because he was giving bad reviews, but we see.
Well, he was giving malicious reviews without any care for how it could hurt somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. It was. I mean, they were bad, mean, and very.
There were several parts
reviews.
where Peter was saying like, "This is my life."
Yeah.
Like there were several parts where he said that, like when he said that to the owner of the restaurant that was firing, he's like, "This is my life."
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to totally absolve JT. Not that he deserved what he got in this movie, but he never once thought like, what will happen to this person's life, business, family. Everything.
Yeah.
He never once thought of that. That didn't matter.
No, not at all. But it's interesting to me because we see on screen so often, so many examples of Peter and how dedicated and faithful and meticulous he is with his cooking. But then we also look at how much time and energy and planning he put into destroying the person that he hated. Mm-hmm. And so there's kind of that look of, like you were saying, the perversion of his creative force, where, for using his creative force for good would have been making more good food and opening a new restaurant and maybe trying a new cooking show. But no, he took that creative energy and he poured it all into just bringing down the person that brought him down. And that is a pretty interesting exploration for me.
Well, and if you want to go even deeper into the kind of analyzing, one thing I noticed upon rewatching this film for the first time in a good while was how intensely he talks on his TV show, etc., about the ingredients, the sourcing, the difficulty, the rarity, the da-da-da and da-da-da. And I know that that's all a part of gourmet food, but if you think about it, that's an element of searching. That's something you have to do. You have to go outside of yourself because it's not cooking technique. It's getting the best ingredients and then preparing them properly and doing all this stuff, procuring these things, which kind of made me wonder if he was kind of a little creatively bankrupt, because he's doing a cooking show where he's making meals that like no one watching it can make.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't watch enough cooking shows on like television. I watch a lot of cooking on YouTube, but like he's, explaining how to make like a, Brazilian sea bass frittata. Who's making a Brazilian sea bass frittata at home while they watch along? Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. And that's kind of my point is maybe in a way procuring JT was kind of him leaning into the laziness or the desperation that he had found himself in as a chef. Because it can't be just that he's bad on TV as to why he's getting let go of from the restaurants. Something else has to be missing. And it can't just be one review ruins your restaurant. Now, it may be that one review on top of the fact that you're declining, or on top of the fact, the whole mulberry with the rabbits thing is honestly one of the least extravagant concepts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Compared to importing, fucking beef tallow from Tibet or some shit, aside from that kind of thing, that's actually like a really down home concept. And he grew up hunting and he grew up in, being in nature. So in a way, it's like that might have been one of the last times he was really inspired.
Oh, yeah.
Was this rabbit dish with the mulberry ragu, and having that destroyed by this writer, on top of the fact that he feels like maybe deep down he's lost it, or maybe deep down he's out of ideas or what have you. I don't know. That's just kind of a thought I started to have when I noticed when he kept talking about the ingredients. And I know that people talk about ingredients and ingredients are important, but at the end of the day, like, you should be able to make an omelet with eggs and it should be good.
Yeah.
Like, you should know how. You know, when I was growing up, my stepdad had tricks for if the eggs were old. He would look at the date on them and then he'd be like, we got to wake the eggs up. You know, like, we had tricks from the restaurant.
Yeah.
So like the idea that everything is, you know, sea bass and a reduction from a blah, 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 blah. And, you know, Bourguignon wine and all, like, I don't know, that's just a thought I had in my head.
No, I think that's a very good thought. And I think you and I are both especially when it comes to cooking, we're both of the opinion that as long as it tastes good and you enjoy it, then it's good food, you know?
And I think that's how I got food poisoning. But.
Oh. We're going back to the food poisoning.
Forever.
But it's not just food though. That's any creative thing that you consume, art, music, movies. If you enjoy it, then it's good. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be the best, most expensive ingredients. It doesn't have to be, you know, shot on the most expensive camera. As long as it's something that you enjoy, then it is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I look at this more and more, I think, and we'll leave it here, but I think the more I think about it, I think he wanted to torment and kill this guy as a way to recapture his spark. I really do. I think that this was his way of bringing back that inspiration he had to create by destroying the destroyer.
Yes. Yeah.
That's just something in my head, like that maybe after he was done tormenting JT Franks, that maybe he could return to glory.
Yeah.
But instead he returned to gory. Hey! So with that all being said, before we get out of here, you want to tell them what we're going to be talking about? This the next episode of Cutting Deep will drop the day after Thanksgiving, and it is food and family themed.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The classic from 1974, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, possibly my favorite horror movie of all time and one of the scariest horror movies of all time. I cannot wait to dissect it and talk about it because I actually have never really watched it through that lens before. So I'm going to really savor that. And I want to let you guys know, if you need to bone up ahead of time, because Texas Chainsaw is a perfect Thanksgiving movie. It's got food, it's got family. It is right now streaming on Netflix. It is on Tubi. It is on Pluto TV, Roku channel, Plex. It's on Peacock. It is just about anywhere you watch movies for free. So that you have no excuse not to check out Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you haven't already, we'll be talking about it on Black Friday.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, I mean, that just happens
to be kind of perfect.
That just happens
kind
to be
of perfect
when it is, yo. So, but with that all being said, thank you guys again for tuning in. And we do appreciate you listening to Cutting Deep into Horror. I've been your host, Enrique Couto, here with Rachel Werdolfi. And if you love what we did here and you want to recommend a film or give us a comment or say no runny yellows, send an email to weeklyspooky@gmail.com. We'd be happy to respond to you. Or you can leave a comment on Spotify. But if you're a dick, I will just I'll just feed you to your wife, I guess. And if you love what we're doing and want to support us in a very direct way, you can head to weeklyspooky.com/join, sign up for the Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And remember, head to cozyearth.com and use promo code SPOOKY at checkout for 41% off your order of bamboo sheets, loungewear, or my favorite robes. So now it's time for us to get out of here until next time. So, stay hungry.